Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Todd Clint's SharePoint podcast number 368, recorded live Monday, December 17th, 2017. I am your host, and feeling very festive, Todd Clint, and as always, my left-hand man, Shane, is also here with me.
I wish I was left-handed, right? Then that would mean I'm creative. I could hit a curveball or something like that. It'd be fun.
Did we ever talk about how I discovered I was ambidextrous by accident?
Nope.
Yeah, so I right-handed like 96% of the folks in the U.S. And when I was in basic training in the Army, the day that we took our final PT test, after we took our final PT test and we're getting ready to do our bivouac, our camping for a week, they had us out doing chores. And right before we left, we were doing lawn mowing and stuff. And I was helping a guy load one of the riding lawnmowers out of the back of a car, out of a truck. And he let go of it before I had my hand underneath it, and he dropped the riding lawnmower, the edge of it, on my hand, and it hit the bumper. And it cut the tip of this finger open, and it hit so hard that it blew the tip out. Like it cut where it hit, and then it blew the tip of my finger out. So I couldn't use this finger for quite a while, but it was all wrapped up, and I was all put together. So I couldn't use my right hand. And so I went to the chow hall and went to sign in, and I grabbed the pen, and I'm like, I can kind of sign with this. And then I got my utensils. I couldn't use this hand. I'm like, I can eat with this thing. Have I always been able to use this thing? And that's what led to me almost killing myself at your house, was when I was 18, figuring out I could use my left hand for something more than hat rack.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to have purpose. Yeah, I eat left-handed sometimes just to practice, get up to speed there. No reason not to.
Yeah, I had a buddy that I used to work with who was left-handed. And so like when 3 or 4 of us would go out to eat, or 3 of us, we would sit in a booth. He would always run first and get in on the one so that his left arm was out so that nobody would sit next to him, because then so I would always sit next to him because then I could eat with my left hand too and not give him the booth by himself.
This is the worst show intro in the history of the universe
ever.
So,
if you'd like to hear more about Shane or I's hands, you can email me todd@toddclint.com or hit me up on Twitter @ToddClint. Shane, if somebody wants to hear about your hands, how do they get hold of you?
I mean, I guess if you want to hear what I can do with my left hand, just hit me up on Twitter @Shane'sCows. I am certain it will be a completely inappropriate response, so be careful what you ask for. I made Todd choke. He's like dying over there.
Yeah, okay. So on to production notes. If we live through the production of this show, everything's caught up for now. Coming up on the end of the year, so we got a couple of things going on. One of them is 2 weeks from today is Christmas Day. We will not be doing a show Christmas Day. And then, as always is the case, New Year's Day is a week after Christmas, and we will not be doing a show on New Year's Day. So next week, the 18th, will probably be the last live Monday show that we do in 2017. But last week I mentioned that we were considering, instead of doing our boring old end of the year wrap up like we normally do and don't know what we're talking about, we've thought about just having a show dedicated to our cord cutting experience. Shane and I both cord cut, or you're in the process of it. Have you actually canceled everything?
I haven't hit cancel yet. Or I think I got a couple more days until I hit cancel.
Yeah, so you're by then. And so we decided we're just going to spend a show talking about cord cutting and associated technologies. So even if you're not a cord cutter, we're going to be talking about a bunch of set-top devices, Rokus and Amazon Fires and Plex and streaming and all those kind of things. So even if you're not going to dedicate yourself to cord cutting, there's going to be something everywhere for that. So now that we've got you all excited about that, you're probably asking yourself, when will this tremendous show be recorded? I must know. We don't know. So with holidays and travel and all these other kind of things, we're not sure when we're going to record it. It will probably be sometime next week, maybe. We'll see. But follow both of us on Twitter, because we will do it a half an hour ahead of time, something like that. We'll tweet a thing out, and then you can jump in the chat room and join us. But that will be our end of the year show, is cord cutting.
And this just in, next week will be an homage to Lori Gowan, who it's her 18th birthday, is what it 18. Says. So look forward to the Lori Turns 18 show next week.
Yes. It will be on her birthday, on the 18th, her golden birthday.
All right, on to topics before we lose everyone.
Topics before we lose all of the listeners. Been a busy week, so it's funny because we're coming up to the end of the year. Everybody's taking vacation, all that, but there's just a bunch of things going on, and so we thought we would talk about those. The first one is I'm out there blogging, providing value to the community out there. last week, I published a blog post on some PowerShell that I wrote to download SharePoint patches with PowerShell. Yes, some PowerShell I wrote to download patches with PowerShell, using PowerShell. So this came from a couple of things. Number one, been doing a bunch of consulting and customer work lately. And a couple of times I've been in a fairly secure environment where the web browsers on the SharePoint servers and other servers, I assume, have restrictions. So you can't download files, things like that. Probably a good idea. I mean, that's not a horrible thing. But then when I'm installing SharePoint trying to patch it, I can't download the patches. And being VPN'd in, copying them across with RDP is tough because they're like a gig a piece. And so I ended up having to grab the patches with PowerShell. So find the URLs, use, invoke web request and all that kind of stuff. And then Jason Himmelstein, friend of ours, was writing some stuff and he wanted some PowerShell for a BI class or something he was teaching because there's a bunch of things that he needed to download, but he wanted to have a script that would just download whatever the current versions were, and he couldn't just point at the text page because that didn't do it. So that was kind of the impetus for this PowerShell that I wrote a couple weeks ago. And so you can go to my blog, toddclint.com/PS download MS patch and see the PowerShell script that I wrote. And I wrote it trying to be more responsible. So in the chat room, Dave Aykroyd and Jeff Hicks have been a positive influence on me. So I wrote this as a PowerShell function and I dropped it into a module. So you can download this module and then import it on your system, your SharePoint server, your desktop, whatever, and then use my function to download these patches. And basically you take the URL that you get from my patch page at toddclint.com/SP2016 builds, pop it into that function, it downloads the executable for you. So I did that. I was showing it to Shane. I had, so before I publish blog posts, I have people go over them. And if they're PowerShell ones, I have Shane go over them. I have Jeff go over them. And Shane had the idea of making a video for it. So I also did that. So I've got that out on YouTube that just kind of shows how to use this particular function.
Yeah, and I think the video, right, that was a neat concept just because there's a little more to teach with this one. The PowerShell, right, there's a PowerShell function, right, actually accomplishing something like downloading the SharePoint patches. But then sometimes it's just good to look at other people's PowerShell and see how exactly Todd did that, the problems he had to solve, right, because it's never as simple as you want it to be. So in there you see that Todd takes the URL 3 different ways, and so then you got to do all the error handling and fixing up to figure it out. So I just thought it was a great one for to make a video. Now, I would challenge all of you that are listening or reading or watching or whatever you do is, if you like this idea that Todd's blog post kind of has a corresponding video to go with it, I think that's the type of thing you got to make sure you're leaving him YouTube comments down below and saying, hey, Todd, do more of this, because it's hard. I had to beat Todd with a stick, right? I was like, do it.
Oh, yeah. So I, without exaggeration, it was probably a week from the time when Shane said, you should record this video, and I agreed to it, to the time I actually recorded the video. It was probably a week. And the other thing, so the video that I did make is just the usage, like the installation and the usage of the command. I didn't get into the guts of the PowerShell and explain how I broke all that down. But I'm willing to do that. If you watch the video and you want that, leave me a comment and tell me, because I don't want to record that video. Because, that thing probably took me 3-4 hours to record, edit, have Shane rip it apart and tell me how terrible it was, record some new stuff, edit it again, re-render it. Happy to do that so long as it's providing value and people are going to watch it.
Yeah, and one of the things you'll find, right, is the more of them you do, the easier that whole process gets, right?
I hope to God. I hope you're right.
Because now I can pop out a 15-minute video in probably about an hour end to end, right? Because I've learned the things. I know how to listen to myself as I'm doing it and catch my screw ups, and so just record the fix in line. And a lot of that stuff, it'll come to you if you start doing a bunch of these. But if you just do these one-offs, video work is terrible the first 100 or 200 videos you make.
Yeah, there was a part of it when Shane was looking through it. He's like, this part here is really bad. I'm like, how bad is bad? He's like, pretty bad. And I'm like, re-record it bad or just do it better next time bad? He's like, re-record it bad for sure. I'm like, really? It's just...
Yeah. And it's tough. I mean, I don't blame you, right? It's really frustrating, especially because you're like, thank God it's done, it's over. And then you show it to me and I'm just like, yeah, this thing you spent 4 hours on, you really just need to start over and hold your head this way next time you talk, right? And that was some of the feedback, right? Like, hey, Todd, your big head's in the way. And he's like, I couldn't fix, I got nothing. I can't fix it this time. I'll fix it next time.
Yep. Shane took a lot of delight in telling me that my baby was ugly.
I did.
Yep. But if you like those things, let me know. Happy to make more. We got out there. Speaking of SharePoint and PowerShell, two of my favorite things all mixed up in one. Watching Twitter today, and the Microsoft SharePoint account tweeted out that they are changing kind of the homepage for SharePoint and PowerShell. I think this is a good thing, and it's on docs.microsoft.com. However, I think their execution is a little lacking. So there'll be a link below. It's a big long link, so I don't want to tell it out, here. For those of you listening to this in your car, when you get back, go to toddclint.com/podcast368. There'll be the link down there. So the idea is that they've got a landing place for SharePoint and PowerShell, and it's SharePoint on-prem, SharePoint online, and the Patterns and Practice PowerShell. So a couple of significant things here. Number one, this might be like the first time the Patterns and Practices PowerShell exists on a .microsoft.com site. So this is, it's a first person, first level citizen here. And so that's pretty cool. The bad news is the page isn't very user friendly yet. So I hit it, and the first thing that I thought of was it's just too difficult to figure out how to download and install this stuff. Like if you click the different things, all it does is give you the commandlets, which is great, but it doesn't show you how to get the commandlets. So I got into Twitter like any good internet citizen did, and I complained. Just went out there, told them how terrible it was, worst thing ever. They all suck. Their parents and families are horrible. And Vesa, whose last name Juvonen, he is like the program manager at Microsoft that owns a bunch of this stuff. He's very active in the PNP thing. He replied back, and he's like, hey, let us know what you want us to change. And so the more I looked at it, the more Shane and I talked this afternoon, my list got longer and longer. So I shot Vesa another tweet, and I'm like, I'm just going to send you an email, and he's all for it. So look for that page to be getting better. And I encourage you to, if you go to that page and can think of constructive criticism, let them know. They seem eager to fix it.
Oh, there you go. My mute button doesn't always work now. It's very interesting.
It was working great just a minute ago. We couldn't hear a thing you were saying. Big fan.
It's always your favorite. Yeah, I was just going to say, it's right. It's good to see that it is. It's pointing out that the PNP stuff is a first-class citizen. I think it's a big step forward. And it does. It just needs a little love. The good news is a lot of the stuff it's missing is a lot of the stuff that I've created for you via video or articles on Petri.com. So you guys as informed people don't need the pieces that are missing, but Todd's going to help the rest of the world catch up with us. So he's a nice guy.
Yep. And again, so the big things that I noticed, there's some navigation issues on the pages, but like when you click the PNP link, it doesn't take you to an overview of PNP and here's how to install PNP. It's just a list of the commandlets. So that's not handy for somebody who's first finding it. So that's some of the feedback I'm going to give Vesa. He's probably already listening, so he's going to get this long before I send him the email. But good stuff. So kudos to Microsoft for showing that the PNP stuff is a first-class citizen and putting all this on one page.
Yep. So speaking of Microsoft kudos, I think you got a note here also that they decided to rename first release to targeted release. This is like because it's hunting season. I don't understand what's going on here.
I don't know. They did that. I can't remember when that took effect. If that was a recent thing or if that happened a month or so ago. It looks like the 8th. So, and this was something Jeff Jones, SP Jeff. I got a link to his blog post on this. Basically, as far as I can tell, all the places inside of Office 365 where you used to have to sign up for first release, they now call it targeted release. As I put in the notes, same great unexpected behavior, shiny new name. That's really all it is. And as far as I know, it still has that weird quirk where your tenant has to be set to first release and users can also be set to first release. And depending on which piece of new functionality you're hoping to get early, you have to have one or the other set correctly, which is confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess on the bright side, they didn't decide to name it like power release or point release, right?
Active release.
Those are two of their favorite words. So, glad they skipped that and decided to go with targeted release, but now I'm having visions of deer hunters for some reason.
It is that time of year, yeah.
I've probably ruined it for people, right? If you're an anti-gun person, you're like, I can't use targeted release now. Darn you, Shane.
Yep. I was at a buddy's house yesterday, and he lives out of town. And I pulled up to his house, and he's standing out back, and he's watching some hunters in the field next to where we were at. I mean, you could see them and all that. And I'm like, "What? Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm watching these hunters." So I'm thinking these are men with rifles or shotguns. I assume shotguns because they were hunting deer. We should be inside. Like, are you watching them to make sure they don't shoot us? And he's like, "No, I'm looking to see which way they run the deer, because if they run them that way, I'm gonna get my shotgun." Like, we have two totally completely different instincts when we see men with guns, you and I. I run that way, you run that way.
Yeah. And which way are they flushing them? I'm trying to get in front of them. And are they shooting in that direction? Why would you try to get...
Yeah, that's like, what the hell? Neither one of us are wearing orange. This is terrible.
Yeah, that orange vest is not bulletproof, right? It's not idiot-proof either, so...
Nope.
No, thank you.
So for the tenant and the user thing, I wanted to hit that again. Some things you need to have your tenant in targeted release. Some things you have to have users in targeted release. And kind of the way that I explain that to folks, especially folks that come from the on-prem world, is some of the new SharePoint Online features come in as like solutions would. And in that case, you want your entire farm, your entire tenant in targeted release. But some things come in as audiences. And in that case, you want your users in that targeted release audience. So if you see something come out and they say this is only available to targeted release tenants, and you put your tenant in and it doesn't show up, try putting your users in targeted release as well.
Yeah, such a challenge still to this day, right? Keeping up with what has what, and then for like idiots like us, right, who know things that we're not supposed to know yet. When did this thing become? Yeah, a thing versus a thing, right? Like I thought target release was like 3 months ago. So if that's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I get really confused.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm like, Todd, why are you putting that in there? Who knows?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. But anyway, keep a lookout for that. No big changes other than just a name change.
All right. What else we got there? Something about IIS logs.
Yeah. So, and this is a couple of things about this that I really like. Number one, it's a mixture of several things that I like all together. So IIS and logs. Who doesn't like IIS logs? I love IIS logs. SQL databases, PowerShell, and a tool that I have been using for years called Log Parser. So Log Parser is something that Microsoft released, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 10 years ago. It's an exe that you can use to move logs in and out of SQL, do queries against log files, things like that. I use a GUI front end for it called Log Parser Lizard, and I should have put a note for that in the blog post. Really like that. So that lets you use, Log Parser lets you use SQL, transact SQL-like statements against things like IIS logs, event logs, things like that. And then Log Parser Lizard is kind of like the query analyzer part of you're used to with SQL. And so that's great. So this particular blog post is somebody using Log Parser to walk through their IIS logs and then pop them into a SharePoint or a SQL database. And so then, of course, you can do all your SQL queries against it. You can back it up with your regular SQL databases, all that kind of stuff. You can clear out your file system on your IIS server. I really like that. There's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, see, and I was traumatized when you started reading, right? It's like IIS logs, SQL databases, so things that eat all the space on C drives, using PowerShell and Log Parser. So are you automating eating C drives is really what I saw there.
Well, and so for any good, SharePoint farm, your SQL should be a different box. So it's not eating the C drive on your SharePoint box. Now it's eating the C drive on your SQL box. So,
So the IIS logs are eating it on the SharePoint box while SQL eats it on the SQL box. You're taking two boxes down at once now.
Yeah, well, the hope is, you eventually delete them off the SharePoint box. But
I like it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Logging is important. I was troubleshooting an issue today. Getting all the logs in all the places is always tough. And so tools like this that make that easier, I really like.
Yeah, and I guess we should give the public service announcement that we're talking jest, right? We really don't recommend your IIS logs stay on the C drive. We don't recommend SQL stays on the C drive.
Nope.
But as consultants who specialize in break fix, we've seen that a few hundred, almost thousands of times. So that's we've gotten used to that being the norm.
Yep. Yeah, it truly is. Yeah, so one of the things that Shane and I do when we install SharePoint is every single thing we can move to the D drive or the E drive we do, including IIS logs.
Yep. So what do we got next here? So I wanted to give a shout out to my good buddy Roland from Canada. So you guys know, right? Sandy, perk your ears up. I've been working a lot on Power App stuff. And so one of the things I'm working on right now is I'm writing a white paper to help certain users get started with Power Apps. And one of the ones I'm having a challenge with was figuring out what a info path guru would want to know and see in order to get them interested and try out Power Apps. And so Roland commented on one of my videos, said, hey, I'm a Power Apps guy, or I'm an info path guy who's trying to learn Power Apps, and your video helped. And I was like, please email me. So he emailed me up. We kind of traded some stuff back and forth. And so he's kind of helping me work through what kind of content, and just a quick starter guide, right? I'm not trying to write a book, but just a quick little thing that would get an info path guy off the ground, both excited about Power Apps, but then show him how to do some of the common things in Power Apps. So having a lot of luck with him. I appreciate that. But I also would like to request, so the other two audiences I'm working with are Excel. Who doesn't love Excel?
I love Excel.
And our good friend Access, which we thought we killed off all those years ago, and it came back. So if you're really big into either Excel or Access, and you're kind of like an inkling for, you want to transition to Power Apps, you'd like to use Power Apps, but you don't know what you need to know, or that type of scenario, or you were like, hey, I want to learn these things in Power Apps and correlate them to Access. I don't know how to do that. If you would hit me up, right, you can tweet me at Shane's Cows, or you can email me, shane@boldzebras.com. I would love to hear from someone who I could have as a sounding board for what the content is you want to see in this space. So I'm not just making up something like, well, with Excel, I use it to organize my Star Wars characters, so I'm going to make the demos for that.
I was actually watching a Star Wars movie this afternoon. The new Star Wars movie comes out on Friday. I was watching Force Awakens to kind of get up to speed, so...
Oh man, saying that name, saying Star Wars and The Force Awakens, we almost guaranteed our videos and get blackballed, right? Inappropriate stealing content.
Yep. No, and so this brings up an interesting point, and this is something that Shane and I have battled with, our entire SharePoint careers, is while we know our part of SharePoint very well, the admin side, the back-end side, we are horrible SharePoint users. I mean, just terrible, because we don't use it like end users use it. And so when it comes to things like what Shane's doing now with Power Apps, he can design all the great things that he cares about, but until he talks to somebody who actually uses, Access or InfoPath as an end user, we're probably writing the wrong stuff. So absolutely reach out to Shane.
Yeah, I mean, a great example, right? Like he's like, one of the most exciting things about this for me is the fact that Power Apps is mobile and touch, out of the box, right? InfoPath can't do that. I'm like, I would have never thought of that because, of course, Power Apps is mobile and touch. That's the whole point of it, right? And that's just one of those examples of the disconnect. I had no idea that was a big deal because it's just, it's like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I just know how to do it. I can't imagine someone doesn't know how to do that.
Yep. So thanks to Roland from Canada. I know how painful it can be sometimes to communicate with Shane and just thank you to you for lowering yourself to doing that. I appreciate that.
I hate you. All right. So speaking of lowering, I hear that you found out about the Keylogger that I installed on your laptop.
Yeah. So I recently, 2 or 3 months ago, bought a new laptop. It's an HP Spectre X360. Hell, I don't remember. All the HP, much like Microsoft product names, all the HP product names are the same words, but like swapped, back and forth. And to make things super confusing, HP calls the same model the same thing year after year. So like if you have some way of figuring out which one you have, like my Spectre 360, it could be the 2017 version or the 2016 version or the 2015 version. It's delightful. It really is. So I think I have the 2017 version of the Spectre 360 or X360 or 360X or whoever hell knows. But yeah, so you and I both saw this today. Some developer, it's always a freaking developer, was poking around trying to do some stuff, trying to figure out how to control the backlight on the keyboard. And he wormed his way into the Synaptics device driver, so that's the touchpad device driver, and realized there was a keylogger built into it. So in HP's defense, a couple of things. Number one, he didn't have an HP laptop, and so he was trying to get one, and nobody would just give this random guy an HP laptop to try this with. So
good job, internet.
Yeah, yes, things are working. So he contacted HP, and they're like, "Yep, we're on it. We're already working on a patch for it. It's going to get pushed out, I think, with Windows Update or something like that." So they were on it. And number two, the keylogger was not actually active, and it was probably an honest mistake. It was built as part of a debugging routine for trying to figure out why the touch pad doesn't work. But regardless, if you've got an HP tablet or laptop, and there's only 460 models, I think.
Only 460 with that, support capability.
Yeah. So in the chat room, Dave Aykroyd is saying they knew about it, but they didn't let everybody know. I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but I will say that is a constant security concern when you're finding bugs. Do you tell people immediately before you have the patch? Did you tell people as soon as you know? Because then some of those people are bad people and they're going to try to exploit it before you get the patch out. Or do you keep it quiet until you get the patch out, and then when the patch comes out, say, everybody, it's super important you release this patch? There's just no easy answers for that. That's something the security community has struggled with for a long time. And
do you call the NSA before or after and tell them that their back door is getting turned off?
Yeah, that's no comment.
I thought that was inappropriate.
Yeah. So I will be looking anxiously at all the Windows updates that come out for that laptop. I will say in a couple of minutes, I really like that laptop. It is it's metal, it's solid, it feels real good. It has USB-C charger, which is the same as my phone, which is the same as my other little tablet here that I've got. It's got touchscreen. It folds all the way back. I'm a big fan of that laptop. I really like it. Other than the fact that it's spying on me.
Well, I mean, they're all spying on you. They just these ones got caught, right? All right, so I probably should wrap this thing up. I got 3 minutes, which is way too long for you to talk, but you will. So talk for 3 minutes, Todd.
All right. Well, the first thing is today is the very first official day of my charity drive, my birthday charity drive. So my birthday is next month. I will turn a very young and fresh 44 years old.
Wow.
But, so if you go to Lori's website, pointgowan.com/TKCharity, we keep a tally every year, and they've been doing this. Lori and Dan Usher started this a few years ago. Basically, we're just hoping it's a good time of the year for donating to charities. Any charity, I don't care. I don't have any favorite ones. It doesn't matter. As a listener, donate to any charity that's important to you, whatever it is. After you donate it, send Lori an email or let her know on the website, and we're going to tally all the stuff that the listeners do together and just kind of see what the reach is for that. The last few years, I've been matching the donations that you guys make, but then you started cranking out like $3,000 and $4,000 a year, and it started being a lot of money. But we'll see. I haven't talked to my accountant yet to see what we can do about that this year.
Yeah, well, Wednesday is we need to start a charity drive for the show, so we can actually, buy some equipment and make the show better. But that's a topic for another day. I won't steal from the poor children today.
Yes.
But no, it's in the back of my mind. It's like, why are they getting money and this show is not getting money?
Yep. And then the other thing to mention for shameless self-promotion is Shane and I, this joker and I, in just 5 months, we're going to be in Las Vegas for the SharePoint Conference, North America. SharePointNA.com is the website. If you haven't signed up already, do that. It is May 21st through the 23rd, 2018 at the MGM Grand. You can sign up. If you sign up, there's a referral code. There's been some disagreement on which referral code you should use. Those of you that are listening to the audio stream can't tell, but Shane is pointing at my last name in the lower third here. So you can use either of our last names. You can use KLINDT for a referral code, gets you $50 off. You can use Shane's last name, Young, as a referral code, and that gets you punched in the nose when you walk in the door the first time. Only the first time, though. Then after that, you don't get punched in the nose anymore. So that's up to you. But not only are Shane and I doing a couple of hour-long sessions, we're also doing a day camp the Thursday after that, the 24th, all about SharePoint administration, on-prem, in the cloud, in the city, on the farm, all over.
I'm excited. I mean, I truly am, right? It's we make a lot of fun of your inability to spell your last name, But we're really excited to just get back there and have another SharePoint conference. I mean, those are some of the best memories I've got is the actual SharePoint conferences in Vegas and, the shenanigans that took place. I'm hoping that they're cheeky shenanigans now because, as Todd said, he'll be 44 and I'm 40. So we can't be doing too crazy. But we're excited to go back to Vegas and have a show focused all on SharePoint again.
Yeah, and this is as legitimate as SharePoint conferences get. Microsoft is backing this as much as they can. Financially, they've got a bunch of speakers showing up. It's going to be where their May event is going to be. So you remember 2 years ago, the May event is when they released or announced SharePoint 2016. Last year, they announced Feature Pack 1 and all those things. There's going to be a bunch of great things. This is the real deal. So would love to see you in Vegas. We'll do something for the podcast. We'll have a lunch or a breakfast or a dinner or something. Go skinny dipping in the Bellagio fountain. Something. We'll figure something out.
A charity drive.
Charity drive. There we go. So, Shane, you need to go coach some youngsters. Get that winning streak up.
Hey, we won this week, so we're 1-1.
What's your team name?
They don't have names.
They don't have names.
They're all the school teams. We're all just the Knights.
The Shanesters.
But we beat the Knights, right? The Knights beat the Knights, so it was a night to remember. I don't know.
That's horrible. So get out of there. Go influence young minds. Chat room, I'll stick around for a bit. Everybody else, we will see you next week for 369. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Don't forget it's Lori's birthday.
Lori's birthday. Yep, so have your presents ready.
See ya.